What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today we need to talk about Sundial stock, ticker symbol SNDL, because this stock is actually down about 5% today on some pretty incredible news. It's getting pretty darn cheap. And so to start off the video, I'm going to be buying some Sundial, and all you guys need to do to see that happen is subscribe to the channel down below. So go down real quick, hit the subscribe button. You're about to see me buy about 1,000 shares of Sundial live right here. We're sending in the order. And boom, it's done. So hopefully you guys have subscribed to the channel already. And we're about to start off this Sundial video with some very good news for Sundial stock. It's legalization news. We've been waiting for this kind of stuff for a long time. But it's not US legalization news. It's actually Malta legalization news. The first country in Europe to legalize cannabis has just done so or is about to do so. Their parliament just approved the legalization bill, and their president is expected to sign the bill into law sometime within the next couple of days before the weekend. That's when we're expecting the president of Malta to sign this legalization bill. So this isn't going to directly benefit Sundial off the bat, right? Sundial doesn't actually have any kind of business in Europe, but it is continuing a trend of many countries are now considering legalizing cannabis. We're going to talk about some of them in a minute, but first we'll talk about this Malta news. So under the legalization, adults 18 and older will be allowed to possess up to 7 grams of cannabis and cultivate up to 4 plants for personal use. So that's interesting that they're taking the approach of 18, not 21, as we're expected to see in the United States. People who are 18 and older can possess and cultivate cannabis. So that's very interesting. Maybe the US will follow suit with that. I doubt it, but they might. Up to 50 grams of homegrown cannabis can be stored in your house. So you can only have 7 grams on your person when you're walking around, but up to 50 grams in your house. And while there wouldn't be a commercial market, so Sundial or TLRY or any cannabis company couldn't actually be commercializing the cannabis space in Malta, there could be nonprofit businesses that cultivate and distribute cannabis to their members. And we're going to talk about those in a second. First, we'll talk about some of the consequences for possessing cannabis in Malta. Possession of 7 to 28 grams, so more than 7 but less than 28, by an adult would only get you a fine. So you wouldn't actually face any jail time or criminal records, and minors would face no criminal charges at all, but would be referred to a commission for justice for a care plan. So overall, a fairly lenient bill. Still not allowing the commercialization of cannabis, but overall, it seems pretty good. And they do say that these nonprofit cannabis clubs are authorized under the bill and could have up to 500 members and could distribute up to 7 grams of cannabis per day to each member with a maximum of 50 grams per month and distribute up to 20 cannabis seeds. So it seems like they're really going the route of everyone growing their own cannabis. So it is interesting. They are the smallest country in the EU, and they're going to be the first to legalize cannabis as long as the president signs the bill by this weekend like he's expected to do. Now, there are a couple of other countries in Europe that are either in the process of legalizing cannabis or are seeming like they're very likely to. First off, Germany's new coalition government has a formal agreement to legalize cannabis, so they're planning on doing that sometime in 2022. Luxembourg unveiled a legalization proposal in October, so they will be voting on that soon. And Italian voters may get a chance this spring to vote on legalization for personal possession and home cultivation of cannabis as well, and this is very interesting, as psilocybin mushrooms. So that could be good for some of the psychedelic stocks out there. Now, a draft bill to legalize, this is also interesting, has been introduced in Mexico to legalize cannabis. So Mexico is considering legalizing cannabis as well, and that's very close to home. That's very close to the US. It's incredibly likely, I think, that the United States will be legalizing cannabis in 2022. There are a bunch of bills, as are mentioned in this article. Actually, there are several competing legalization bills moving through US Congress. We also have some potential legalization coming from the Supreme Court that we're going to talk about in just a second. But before we do, I will show you guys that we currently have 8,322 subscribers. We're just about 80 subscribers away from 8,400, which is our goal. Let's try to get there. If you guys want the most up-to-date Sundial news, then feel free to subscribe to the channel, and we only need about 80 of you guys to do that. So if anyone does it, it's much appreciated. Now, thank you very much for that. But on to the Supreme Court news. This is very interesting. So the Supreme Court is being asked to settle an emerging dispute on whether employers can be forced to reimburse workers for the cost of medical cannabis used to treat job-related injuries. So this is basically saying, will insurance companies have to cover the costs of medical cannabis if you're hurt on the job? And state courts have come to differing conclusions on this. So it's being pushed to the Supreme Court. People are pushing for the Supreme Court to accept this case. They have not done so yet, but it seems like they may. And this is actually important for legalization because A key argument that this group uses that's pushing for this case to be taken by the Supreme Court, a key argument that they use is that the federal government has been so inconsistent in its enforcement of cannabis laws that prohibition should be overturned entirely. So it'd be very interesting to see this coming not from Congress, but from the Supreme Court. They could potentially find that prohibition isn't constitutional. They could potentially say it's not allowed anymore, that it's been done the wrong way, and that it will be overturned. They could potentially say that from this case. And this is actually a quote from the group proposing that the Supreme Court take up this case. They say it should find that the Schedule 1 status of cannabis under the Federal Controlled Substances Act is no longer enforceable, and that doing so will cure the problem. So very interesting stuff. We're going to potentially see the Supreme Court take up this case, and they may then decide to end prohibition on cannabis. Obviously, that's a bit less likely than a bill coming through the House and the Senate and being signed by the president. I think that that's a more likely route that the government would take. I don't know if the Supreme Court would want to risk just ending prohibition and not having an infrastructure for cannabis in place, like a tax structure or anything like that. It could cause some chaos. Potentially, the states could take care of it themselves. But I think if cannabis is going to be legalized, we're probably going to see it come from the House, Senate, and President. We're probably going to have to see an actual bill come and do that, not the Supreme Court. That's my expectation, but it is a possibility to keep in mind for sometime in 2022. We could be seeing this case go through. Now, Sundial has unfortunately been on a bit of a downturn lately. Obviously, they were hitting some, I think these were new lows actually that we just got to today. At least we did get to new lows today. So that's why I was buying up some more shares of Sundial. I think it's just becoming a better and better deal. And that as 2022 comes, I mean, this thing can only be pushed down so much. They've already got so much going for them. In 2022, they're expected to complete the Alcanna merger, which was delayed, unfortunately. They recently had that delay just a couple of days ago, and they've been moving down a bit since then. But I do expect that Sundial and all cannabis stocks should be doing pretty darn good in 2022. And you wouldn't actually guess that from looking at the short interest, because today shorts are they're back at it. They've increased their short interest yet again. We're up 0.92% short interest change-wise on the day. Some additional shorts have gotten in, bringing us up to 17.2% of the free float being short, or 353.33 million shares. Now keep in mind that all of these shares are eventually going to have to be covered once Sundial starts its long-term uptrend. Once cannabis is legal and it's more easy for these businesses to operate and bank in the United States, then I expect these companies over the long term will be turning quite profitable, and they'll probably be starting long-term uptrends with their stock price. Sundial has already announced that they're going to be doing share buybacks. There's no more fear of dilution from Sundial, so I do expect that these shares that are short will eventually have to be bought back by the shorts once they start losing money on those positions. Potentially, if they cover in the next couple of days or weeks while Sundial is still low, then they could make some money, right? They're obviously making money at this point. A lot of the shorts, pretty much all the shorts since we hit lows today, are in the green, right? They've made money at this point. They could cover, but I think they're getting a little bit greedy. I don't know how much longer they can hold on to these positions before we start moving up in Sundial price and they actually turn into red positions. I would be very worried if I was a short on Sundial or any cannabis-related stock. A lot of them have been getting pushed down lately. TLRY also has been getting pushed down, but all of the cannabis stocks, Organigram, Canopy Growth, all of them have been getting pushed down fairly significantly. It's not just Sundial. All of these cannabis stocks are fairly oversold, in my opinion, especially regarding the potential for a massive pump on legalization news that I think we could see later in 2022, potentially midway through 2022. We've got some elections coming up that year. I think politicians will probably want to shore up their bases. And now that cannabis is polling at a very high acceptance rate in the United States, I think it's a no-brainer for politicians to vote yes to legalize it. So that's what I think regarding Sundial stock. And obviously, none of this was financial advice. I'm just giving you guys my opinion on the stock, letting you know some of the most recent news for Sundial. And if you appreciate it, feel free to subscribe down below. But other than that, guys, have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.